understands this right away.
Welcome to the Premiere Podcast. This is our first episode ever. Very excited about this. We have been collaborating and working on some cool things that we thought would be fun to share with our future audience. So we hope you enjoy.
So this is probably going to be one of the more organic, if you want to call it that, and the most lax of our content that we create. We do all the funny videos. You might have seen some of those. We do the vlogs, but there's still a little bit of a, what would you call it? A little bit of, what would it be? It'd just be
Learning curve?
yeah, definitely that. But I mean, just the way we even act in the vlogs, it's like.
Oh, definitely more. Yeah, that's way more scripted. This is going to be a little bit more just like informal and on the spot and
yeah.
Improv. That's the word we're looking for.
Yep.
So yeah.
So first off, we're going to talk about the past week, and that's probably going to be a staple when we do in these. We just talk about kind of what happened because we do a bunch of gigs, and we never really get to, for one, record a lot, unfortunately. So if we miss, content in video form, we're going to sit here and talk about them because there are funny moments, there are frustrating moments, a lot of those, and everything in between. So just kind of break those down and let you guys know what kind of goes into the nitty gritty when it comes to dealing with people. And I mean, if you work in retail, it's pretty similar, but when you're the entertainment, I don't know, it's slightly different. So.
Well, you're supposed to be the happy person. You're always supposed to be, cheery, make everybody's day. We hear that all the time, too. It's like, it's always our job to, oh, your job's so fun. You just get to make people happy all day. And we try.
Yeah. Okay, preface that. 95% of the time is wonderful. It is very, very wonderful. I enjoy most of it. But we talk about this all the time. It sounds bad when I say it like that, but we talk about it all the time. It's that one bad moment in the day that ruins your entire day, and it's the same concept of like one bad moment in a weekend ruins our entire weekend, and it over time, I mean, it just compounds. So it's really the way you think about it, and we've gotten better. So
we're in therapy for it now. So
yeah, he's my therapist and I'm his. So it's like. No, but if we did this podcast, like 3 years ago, we would, it would not be family friendly.
It'd be way different.
It would be way different.
And you might be able to find that online still, maybe.
That is true. I wasn't going to mention that. So let me just start off by asking you if you had any highlights this past weekend.
This past weekend was actually a really, really, really enjoyable weekend. I got to do parties outside, which we haven't been able to comfortably lately because of the weather. It's finally starting to warm up, finally starting to get to that level of like, you still need a light jacket on, but you can survive outside without freezing to death. Because we had a couple events, 2-3 weeks ago that were like freezing cold. Unfortunately, they were just outdoor events because they had to be outdoor events. But this weekend, we had some events that were outdoors, and they didn't have to be, but it was just enjoyable to finally be outside and breathe fresh air for a few moments while we're doing what we do. And so I mean, I really, really, really enjoyed that. It was just like, oh man, finally it's hibernation is over. We get to go back to full swing of things. But yeah, any special moments? So, boy. I'll tell you what, my gigs were just wonderful this weekend. Everybody was just pleasant to be around. I had this one gig on Sunday. So let me tell you guys too, just for those that might not be like in the balloon community and that are listening to this. So we typically will do between like each of us independently will do about 5 to 7 gigs a weekend. Maybe even more than that. It just really depends on timing and kind of how they can space out and fit in our schedule. But we usually so that's like a typical weekend. We're like at 5 or 7 different events. So one of the parties that I was at on Sunday was a birthday party. Billion kids there, probably 40, honestly, like 40 or so kids. And I was only there for 2 hours because I had to be at another party right after. But I was telling you a little bit about the little girl that was just the most sassy.
Talk about an old soul.
Sassy, yes, girl that I've just it threw me for a loop. Very, very few times am I ever at a loss on words when I'm entertaining, when I'm just making balloons, because typically when I'm there, it's, center of attention, making stuff for everybody, and I have a response for anything anybody throws at me, except for this girl. So, kind of set up the story. We were set up at a park. I was outside in like a gazebo shelter, and there was probably about 20 or so kids already in my line, standing there anxiously waiting for a balloon. And this girl came up, and she knew what she wanted when it was her turn. And so I started making her balloons. And now we have a lot of like little just jokes and gags and just funny bits that we do throughout our balloon twisting just to make it more enjoyable. Because honestly, the most boring thing to do is to just watch somebody just stand there and just twist. So we try to make that really enjoyable. And that's what sets us apart from almost anybody else out there, at least in St. Louis, is the interaction and the fun and the joy and the entertainment aspect of making something like that. So as I was twisting balloons for her, I just made a couple different jokes, and she just kind of looked at me and rolled her eyes a couple times. It was super funny. I don't know why. I just thought it was just because she was like probably like 5 or 6 years old, if I was to guess, and she was just so sassy. And then I went to hand her a balloon, and the balloon flew away, and she just looks at me and she's like, we don't, what did she say? She said something like, we don't got time for that, or something to that extent. And
you said honey, or something like that.
Yeah. I can't even remember what she said now. It just threw me for a loop. She's like, honey, we're gonna save these jokes for later, or something like that. And I was just like, I looked at her, because here it is, like a 6-year-old kid acting like a grown adult.
Yeah.
Like it was just so
It's like
funny.
something my grandma would say.
Yeah, and then there was nobody else around either, so it was just like, it's just kids around, but
That's
no adults.
Like genuinely her response to that.
Yeah, yes.
That's what makes it funny.
Like she
wasn't acting out for anybody or anything.
No, that's the biggest thing, and that's what I thought was so funny about it. It was just the most genuine, but like crazy response. And then I started making. I had a few other jokes, and she's like, we're going to save the chit-chat for later. Wow. Okay.
Business.
Yeah.
Make me my balloon. I got other stuff to do.
That's right. This is a Sunday. We are here to have fun, do what you do, and let me get on with my stuff.
Well, there's probably bounce house or something.
It was a park and a playground. So the playground was literally right next. So
okay.
I was competing against that.
That's really hard. Yeah.
But it was just funny. But honestly, this weekend, like I said, it was a great weekend. Everybody was happy. Everybody was just in a good mood. I think the weather has a lot to do with that. Nice day, everybody's happy. Nobody has anything to be mad about. But how about you?
I can't complain very much. Really at all. Like honestly, in hindsight, like when we look back, it's really hard to complain about it versus like other people's complaints. Because I mean, really, none of them are justified when you really think about it. When somebody wants 2 balloons and you have to deal with that over and over and over again, that's really nothing compared to some things. But just to talk about the good, I worked at Horseshoe Casino, which is never been there before, but they had an Easter egg hunt for all the friends and family of the company, and that was just a neat gig. It was right there by the river. You could literally see the arch right there. So that was just a cool location to work in. Super windy and super cold at the beginning. And then it started warming up. But other than that, it was because it was 10 to 12. So it was still like in the morning to where like the brisk wind and everything. And I thought it was going to be worse right by the river there, but it really wasn't. So that was cool, and it wasn't really busy. So that made it kind of nice. Had the thing at the very end when like, oh, now everybody wants a balloon at the very end. That happened. But other than that, I would say just being in that location was like a cool thing. And I think, I don't know, we take that for granted sometimes of just like, we get to work in some pretty neat places, and we're never in the same spot really every weekend. So it's like you get to travel, and it's always new and exciting in somebody's house one day, or the same day as, hey, we were just literally downtown Ballpark Village, like.
Right.
So it's really cool.
It is kind of surreal, because there'll be times where at the end of the day I'll come back home and I'll just be sitting there and I'll be like, this day, at first, like you were saying, I was downtown at the baseball stadium, and then I was at this house, and then I was over here, and then I was over here, and it's like, I cannot believe I just did all that in one day. It's so weird to think about. It's like, it feels like, no, that's what I did all week. No. That was in one day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of makes sense too, because sometimes we'll have people that'll be like, you got to do more than just this today? And we just kind of shrug it off like,
that's what we do.
Yeah. But they're like crazy surprised by it and just like blown away that we're doing more than just making one balloon for this person right here, right then. And but yeah, so yeah, and you know what? And honestly, to kind of add on to what Tyler was saying too, is we prefer the gigs where there's not just like an endless line of people lined up waiting for balloons, because when we can take our time, we can create such cool balloon creations, just off the wall stuff, and it just gives more time for us to be like a performer and an entertainer. And that's what both of us signed up to do from the very get-go with all of this, is entertainer first, but just using balloons as a means to entertain. I think he would totally
Oh yeah,
agree,
I mean,
right?
Josh, Eric's son, he asked me, he's like, do you really enjoy twisting balloons? And I had to think about it for a second. But I said I don't like the twisting aspect, like
Right.
like the art of creating it. I like that when we sit down, we make videos and stuff. That's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But me making something for somebody, and it takes, and I'm kind of under pressure, and I have to make it over and over and over again. I don't like that aspect of it. But just like making people laugh, making people, like, giving somebody a memory, like that's really what I like doing. So that's definitely.
Well, and 9 out of 10 times when we're done at the party, usually the people come up and they're like, oh, you were so good with the kids and you were so patient and the kids just loved how funny you were and this and that. It's like, I mean, yeah, they do compliment the balloons too. They say the balloons are great, but the moments where you can tell that they really mean it are when they're talking about like how we interact with people.
Yeah.
And that's what really
Absolutely.
like sticks in people's minds, and again, that's what we love to do. We love to create memories, usually good.
Yeah, usually good. But I mean, honestly, I mean, we will get into like more specific. I don't want to just pull one out of thin air just to do it. But I mean, there are bad times, and I mean, this past weekend I had some gripes, but I mean, I really don't want to project them because, like I said, we can't really justify being like they're problems. Like they're really not problems. So, but. Well, when we get threatened or something like that, then we'll say, well, because that has happened.
Everybody's watching this right now. They're like, "What are you talking about?" There's some repressed memories here. No,
Yeah.
it's just a natural thing, and everything happens. And the more we do these videos, the more we'll share, and the more you guys will see, kind of maybe even some clips of things to come in the future.
Yeah, because some stuff is pretty unbelievable. But for today, the main topic I wanted to talk about would be just getting into entertainment, whichever avenue, because I mean it's all pretty interconnected. Like I can really think of any type of entertainment that doesn't really involve like the core things that you need to learn, which is like most entertainments should have a character. Most entertainments should there's practice. The practice is probably the biggest thing I would say. I mean just perfecting your craft, but I could talk about my just getting into it. So just to preface everything, Brian's the reason why I twist balloons. A mutual friend at the time was really the reason. So I really interested in magic, always have been. And another magician friend said that there was an opportunity to where I could just twist balloons. And I jumped right at it because I was working at McDonald's at the time. So anything sounded better than that. So obviously I was like, okay, I'm going to go meet this guy and see what he has to offer. And it was just fun. We were literally in this house, a lot different back then, but just in this house, just twisting balloons. And I just remember thinking like, this is a job, like this is a potential like way to make money, even if it's just a partial thing of like, hey, just be on the weekends, make extra money. It just didn't seem real to me. And I don't know, maybe that's one of the main things that I like to just tell people is like anything's possible. So just whatever you want to do. But yeah,
well, I'm gonna interrupt him because with putting in the work too, because I have tried over the years to have just different entertainers or different people that I've tried to pull in. I'm saying like, hey guys, I need help. Like I need somebody else to help me out with this. This would be awesome if you guys want to learn. And I've had a handful of people that have been more than willing and said, yes, definitely. But then they never put in the work. And Tyler was the first person, and I've told everybody this, I tell everybody this that I know that I talk to about this, is that Tyler was the first person to actually put in the work and the effort that it took to be able to get to the level where like he could go and do anything and everybody's going to love the stuff he does just as much as if I was there, or vice versa. You know, like either way, if either of us do a gig, we know that if we're at that same exact gig next year, it doesn't matter if Tyler was there or if I was there, people are going to remember us and have just love it and like be excited for us to come back. And so, you know, I remember those text messages of the little flower balloons you were making. Just like your room was filled with like 100 flower petals, because that's one of the first things that you learn how to twist, because it just teaches consistency and getting good twisting techniques down and that kind of stuff. Just the mechanics of actually twisting a balloon. And man, yeah, it's a long time ago too.
Very long time ago, 2017. So yeah, I mean, the main thing that I remember was just like, well, time just flies by in general, so I can't really remember, like, it just seems, this is my life now. So, but what I remember the most when first getting started is just kind of like the transitional period of like, this is something fun to do, to like, oh, this is my job. Like, this is my responsibility. If I mess up, it's all on me, which I mean, the only repercussions that I personally would ever really handle is like the person interactions, but like there's also business side of things that like, hey, maybe you won't get hired again, this and this, that I never really even thought of to begin with. I just wanted to have fun, which I think that's the best way to approach it, really. Just, you know, have fun with it, and if you're having fun, everybody around you sees that and then they have fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, I never really sought out to do it, and that's why I tell people I grew up in a small town, so I never really saw anybody twist balloons, even on social media, ever, until I saw Brian do it. And I mean, I went from seeing nothing to, I mean, maybe a balloon dog in a movie one time, to what he was doing, and I'm like, yeah, that looks fun. And oh, he's also a magician too, so maybe I can do magic, which I do now, which is awesome. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, I'm just so ignorant to the fact of like, and I think it was perfect timing, because I was still in high school, and I was pretty motivated in the way that I thought. So I wasn't in the corporate, like, hey, or not corporate, but like the mentality of like, you have to get an education, you have to get a 9-to-5, you have to do this. So it was kind of like a perfect storm that happened. And if it was like a year later, maybe I wouldn't be twisting balloons, because I'd be going off to college, or I don't know, you know.
Yeah. And you know, I've really never even thought about it, but our stories of kind of how we got involved in all of this is ridiculously like similar. Way more similar than I've ever really like kind of realized after listening to you say that, because I mean, the same exact thing for me is like, people always ask, and it's the same scenario. I never imagined in a million years I'd be doing this. I really didn't. Like, I never was like, one day, oh, I'm going to be a balloon twister. Like, that's not how any of this happened. And it just kind of, I just went with the flow. You know, I started off doing magic primarily. That's all I did for probably like 2 years or so when I first got into this. And still at a very, very early age. So I don't even know if I was really, you know, all that serious with it. But needless to say, that's what I started with, and then moved to the balloons. And yeah, it's just really weird, because I feel the same way. Like, if things didn't happen exactly as they did, because again, you were still in high school. I was in middle school when I first started twisting balloons, and just became a freshman in high school. And yeah, it really, like, had I been, you know, 25 years old and already had to have a job and that kind of thing, I probably would not be doing what I was doing. It just fit, because at the time, I didn't have to necessarily like rely on, you know, having to have a house to pay for, a car to pay for, this to pay for, that to pay for. Like, it just worked, where I was able to kind of start slowly building things, as opposed to just having to have everything all at once. So that's probably a pretty good tip too, honestly, is if it's something that like you're wanting to get into, that you slowly work your way into it. I know a lot of people, I know the mindset now is, oh, we dive in 110%.
I gotta quit my job. This is what I gotta do. Which, hey, that's worked for some people.
It has.
But, I mean, hey, Timmy out there, that's working at McDonald's. Hold on to that, because I worked at McDonald's for a good, like, at least 6 months. I don't know. It was quite a while. And here's the honest truth is there were points in time to where I had to get another job. So like I would be full time making not that much money, but it was enough to pay my bills, which I'm happy with that. But yeah, I got a job at Gold's Gym for a short period of time. And then when 2020 happened, I got a job at Supplement Superstores. So like you do what you can to survive, but yeah, like I don't know. I like to think of it like this is what I'm meant to do because like every opportunity that I had to come back, like I'm always going to come back. So yeah, if you really want to do it and you believe that it's for you, you'll make it happen.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, it's just weird because I've really never thought about that, about the similarities between the two. It's just like,
did you have like a mentor or?
I mean, slightly. The majority, honestly, the majority of what I've done and everything was kind of mainly, I'm going to love to say this, on my own. But I had a couple.
And just for fun, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had one guy that taught me a few different magic tricks and was trying to help me out a little bit with shows. But for the most part, I just would sit in my grandparents' basement and just practice magic tricks all day. And then kept with that. But then kind of fast forwarding a little bit, then I landed my first official like gig, which was like a standard, like a weekly night at a restaurant that I was entertaining at. And I guess that's probably where I learned a lot of stuff and learned kind of like, hey, maybe I can actually like really do this like more than just for fun.
Yeah, talk about that because as a 14-year-old?
15.
15. Like that is something that I don't think I would have done back then. So
yeah, looking back on it, I'm like, wow. I was gutsy. I'm a lot more timid now than I was back then, but I guess being 15 years old, you're kind of naive to the world.
You think you're Superman.
Yeah, I learned one card trick and man, I could cure miracles now, or I could make miracles happen, So I guess that was what it kind of boiled down to. And I did have some magician friends at the time too that I would talk to, and they would tell me what they're doing, and I'm like, well, there's no reason I can't do that. I'm not going to let my age hold me back. And there were a lot of times, and this is something I've never even told you, that when people would call me on the phone and they want to book me for a party, and they're like, well, we're not going to pay that much. You're just a kid. And
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Never let that hold me back.
I think that was with the times.
Yeah.
I feel like that wouldn't happen very much now. But yeah, back then,
right.
I could see that definitely.
Well, you're talking really before YouTube, Instagram, Facebook was even, I mean, they were around, but nothing to where they are now. This is, people still used phone books. Like that was the Google back then. So, not that I'm that old, but
you're on the line.
I'm right in the middle.
There was
right
technology,
now.
But it was like very slow and
like you had to borrow the dinosaurs calculator. But no, yeah, but no, I did. I had few people say that stuff. I never let that stop me though, because
good.
I
could have easily let that too.
Well, so. You know what? And I reversed it. So people would say, "Oh, we want to hire you for our kid's birthday party," and they'd say something about me being too young, and I'd say, "Well, what's good about me being young is I can relate to the kids better. I know exactly what they're into. I know what they like. I'm a kid myself, so I can relate and have a better rapport with the kids and entertain them a lot better than some 80-year-old guy that doesn't know what a cartoon even is."
It's true.
So
smart.
I kind of turned that, and it was like that's what worked. And really the main core behind everything was I started doing that restaurant. That built up my confidence a lot because it was every single week I got to test out the stuff that I had been working on. It became, not only was it something that I could make a weekly income from, promote myself because people would see me there, but I also got to practice stuff that, I wouldn't normally get to just practice in, again, my grandparents' basement or wherever. So that was a godsend.
That's huge. That's really, really, because that's what stops me even doing it now. Like the fact that I have no reason to perform, which got a show May 27th. But the only reason I did that is because once you're in that position, you're really just like forced to do it. And I mean, you're either going to do good or bad, but either way, it's going to be good for you. If you mess up, you learn stuff. Yeah. If you do great, I mean, you're onto something. So, but just talking about magic, so there's different types of magic. There's stage magic, walk around magic, parlor magic, all these types of different ways of performing. When you were that age, did you ever do strolling magic? Because I feel like that's where it would be a little tough to like, with the adults of like, hey, this kid's serious, like the entertainment for this party.
So that's actually what I started with, was just walk around magic.
Okay.
I didn't have a show. I mean, I did have a show at first, but my first gigs more or less were just like walk around gigs, and yeah, again, I would have the adults would be. Again, yeah, they'd put me down because I was a kid. Oh, you're not grown up. It's not official. You're just some kid doing some tricks. But after I would show them a couple things, then they'd be like, oh, okay, he actually might know a little bit, and so that actually built up my confidence too, because I'm approaching somebody, they're laughing it off, and then within a couple minutes, I'm grabbing their attention, and they're like treating me like a peer at this point. And so, yeah, I mean, that probably also helped too, just with building confidence and making me want to perform even more because of that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I said, it's 15 years old, 34 now. So in case you're wondering, but at the moment of this podcast. So
yeah, and you've still only been doing it for how long?
Still only been doing this for 15 years. If you ever ask me, I've only been twisting or making balloons or doing magic for 15 years. Even when I'm 60, I've only been doing it for 15 years. It's just a running joke.
It's my retirement.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, one more thing, and then I guess we could wrap this up, because these are probably going to be about 20 to 30 minutes max. Yep. But just you being the owner of the company, you just having more to say in this, like if somebody wants to get started in this, I mean, obviously do it for fun, but like if there's a next step, like do you have any, like a few words you could say?
Yeah, I would just, honestly, practice. And then when you get done practicing, practice more. And then when you get done doing that, practice more. I can't stress that enough. That is the uttermost importance with anything. I've seen so many TikTok magicians, Instagram magicians that just, it's awful. It's awful.
And balloon artists as well.
Yes, it's awful. Practice. Just practice. It's if this is what you want to do, there's no reason you shouldn't be the best at it or as good as you can be. That's the main thing. And then number 2, just go out and perform. I was 15 years old starting my first actual paid gig. Now, before that, things have changed. Times have changed a little bit, but I used to go and set up shop at a little convenient mart that let me set up in front of their store and perform magic for people. And
for free.
Yeah, for free. Yeah, I just did it because I was bored. I was a kid on a Saturday afternoon and rode my bicycle up and set up my little coffee tray or our TV tray stand and did magic. Number 1 is just to practice. Number 2 is perform. Just get out there and perform. But not before you practice. Practice. It's beyond me. I'm sorry. I'm a little sore about that subject.
Yeah, absolutely. Practice, perform, repeat until, I don't know, you're undeniable, I think. I think that's the biggest thing, especially when you're performing for free. Like just getting out there and doing it. It's like that's the people miss of like, hey, I like this thing. All right, how do I make money off of it? Like there's a little period of time where like maybe you won't.
Right. Like that should not be the goal starting right off. It should just be like, get into this, make sure it's something you enjoy doing, make sure it's something that you can make others enjoy, that you're showing, that you're entertaining. That's what you're there for.
And if you're good, you're going to get the call. You're going to get asked for your number, and you're going to get that gig.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so that's it. I mean,
Consistency.
maybe video 2 will. I'll talk about step 2, but for now, that's it. Just practice and get involved. You have a million resources out there. YouTube. I always tell people now. I had to go. I started balloons from a book.
Book and a bag of balloons.
Book and a bag of balloons. That's what I tell everybody. The days before the internet existed. It's I always tell people a book. Yeah, you know what that is, right? It's the internet written down. For now, I am Brian.
I'm Tyler.
And this is the Premiere Podcast.